my fellow comic book collectors. This is Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is part 7 of this massive unboxing and Grail unboxing. It's like a lot of big books, a lot of major keys, and this is going to be just some more slabs, but some good ones, I think, mixed in here. We'll see what's inside, and hopefully some good stuff. Okay, this is a nice book. I know what this is now, just looking at this first book. Okay, this first one is my only slab from this collection. And my collection for this book, for this title, is huge. I have over, I would say, 8,000 books related to this title. Like, that's how big it is, and none of them are slabbed. So this is the only slab, and it's the very first book, which makes it, I actually have it already, but this is the first book. It is After Hours #1. And I gotta explain this book. It's an adult book. It's kind of like Playboy. It has nudity inside. Very mild nudity, to tell you the truth. Very, older style. This is from 1957. It was created by James Warren. And James Warren went on to produce a magazine called Famous Monsters. And that was a very popular magazine. And it led to spin-offs where they created things like Eerie, Creepy, Vampirella, After Hours, not After Hours, Help, 1984, Weird Worlds, just a whole bunch of titles from the Warren Publishing. But it all started with this book. This was the very first book that they published. And the real plan behind it was that they were going to, do what Playboy did. Playboy was a very successful company, so hey, why not, rip them off, and make lots of money doing adult books. Now, what happened was, this is #1, the very first Warren published work. It did okay, didn't do that great. But then in issue #4, they kept with it until issue #4. And After Hours #4, they did something a little bit weird. So it was James Warren and Forrest J. Ackerman. And Forrest J. Ackerman was a geek. He was like a total nerd. He's a total nerd. And he's actually probably one of the first people to ever do cosplay. He would go to the conventions and he'd be all like dressed up and he'd just really get into it. And he was the guy that actually coined the term sci-fi. And he would hang out with all the guys related to these early sci-fi and horror movies. And he was just a total nerd. He was a total geek. He loved it. And he collected it too. So he would collect a lot of photos. And at the time, like, you could pick up photos from, like, the original movie photos for very cheap. And so he amassed a big collection of photos and stills from the movies. And he kind of pitched to James Warren, that why not have like a little, like in Playboy, what they'll do is they'll have different things of interest, men's interests. And he pitched the idea of putting, like, how about we just have a section on monsters? So it's a nudity book, like a girly book, with a section on monster movies. So what happened was people loved it. People went insane for it. They were like, oh, wow, I really love those movies, And people were, like, going after them to say, hey, look, we really, really like not your adult stuff, but this monster section that you created. So because of the popularity of this one little section of this adult book, they decided to create a book called Famous Monsters. And that's how Famous Monsters was born. And that's how James Warren and Warren Publishing became popular. And it all started with this one book. So this is the first in the series and the first book that they ever produced. And I figured if I'm going to get a slab, I might as well get the very first comic or very first magazine that they produced. So it's just a really great one. You can see the back as well. And the funny thing is, Forrest J. Ackerman had a really interesting sense of humor. He was really into puns. He liked getting these little, he liked getting photos and putting like weird captions on them and stuff like that. So yeah, so just, really, really great book to have. So, and it's in a high grade, like a 9.0 from, so it's really high grade. But it says, first Warren magazine, Betty Page pinup and photo cover. Barbara Lane, Phil Telv, and Sterling Fitzpatrick text stories. So it's written as being J Publishing, but it's actually Warren Publishing. It was their first book that they produced. So just a little bit of, like, I'm a big Warren collector. I actually have the complete Warren collection. So this was kind of like, getting that first slab. It's something I can put up on the wall because it's hard to mount magazines onto a wall. But yeah, so that's why I got that one. Okay, this next book is Space Detective #1. It's the first series from Space Detective. Now you gotta be a little bit careful about this book when you buy, if you ever want to chase after this book, because there's two covers. It's the same cover, but there's two companies that produced it in the same cover. You want to get the Avon. This is Avon. I'm not sure if you can see that, but then there was also reprinted by IW. The IW one is still expensive actually, but it's much less valuable than the original Avon because it's a reprint. This is from 1951, and it's got a drug story, atomic explosion panel. It's a Wally Wood cover. So this series just had some really great covers. These sci-fi covers. I love the bubble helmet. And yeah, just a really great series, Space Detective #1. And so yeah, so just a cool book. So this was part of the auction that I'd won from my comic shop. They had this massive auction for just some really big books, and that was one of the ones that I'd won. Okay, next. Okay, this is a really interesting one. This was not part of the auction, but it was a book that I really wanted. And they also had a 20% off sale, so it was really great. So I got this book for 20% off. And it's Batman 423. And now this is actually a very interesting book, because what happened was, this is a Todd McFarlane cover, and it's considered one of Todd McFarlane's best covers, because it's just got this really awesome cape. Now this cape is what made the cover, but what happened was Todd McFarlane didn't have enough time to complete this book. He was kind of under a bit of a deadline crunch, and so what he did was to kind of make it cool but do it quickly. He created this very elaborate looking cape, which is fairly easy to draw. He didn't have to do many details, and that was his way of getting around the deadline. However, he didn't color this himself. He didn't do the coloring. There was a colorist that did the coloring. And what happened was, you'll see this moon in behind, right? This big moon. Well, if you follow the moon, you follow it around, follow it around, follow it around, follow it around, follow it around. If you notice right in here, I'm going to take it out of the plastic so you can see a bit better. right in here. The colorist made a mistake. See, this is the red background, but they colored the moon red too. So there's a little piece of the moon missing as a result. You can see where the line is, like Todd McFarlane had the moon, but the colorist missed it. Now, they actually did 3 printings of this book, first print, second print, and third print. And all of them have that mistake. They never noticed it. And later printings, though, they were like, oh, wait, part of the moon's missing. We got to fix that. So you'll notice that the first 3 printings have that weird part of the moon missing thing. But this is a book that I've wanted in my collection for a long time, because it was like, I remember this book back in the 90s. It was like the hot book, and it was expensive back then, and I was like, I'll wait for it to come down in price. And I waited and waited and waited. Never came down in price. So yeah, it's just a classic cover from 1988. And story by Jim Starlin as well. So Todd McFarlane art and Jim Starlin. So just really great, a great book. For just a classic cover. Probably one of Todd McFarlane's most famous covers. And it's a cover where there's a couple cool things about it. One other cool thing is, you know, he put his name into this little bat. One other really cool thing about this is this cape, the dynamics of it, the kind of life that he gave it, became something that he would later use when he created Spawn. He gave that cape that life. So in a way, this is a bit of a prototype for what would later become Spawn. So just a little bit extra trivia there. So that's Batman 423. And that was the first printing as well. Okay. Okay, so this next book is just a great one. This is another series that I'm trying to get the complete run of. I'm just missing one book. I'm just missing one, and I'll have the complete run. Is Annie Oakley. This, I don't usually collect Westerns. I don't really like Westerns per se, but I like good girl art. And these Annie Oakleys had some pretty great good girl art. So this one is just, it's kind of got that humor. You know, this guy's totally in love with her. He gets her, basically they're saying, see, I told you Annie could make any guy jump through hoops. You know, he's jumping through hoops in order to be with her. Yeah. So it's just a classic good girl art cover. So this is from 1948. And it's got a Lana backup story. And it's Bill Williams art. So that's Annie Oakley number 3. And if you have number 3, you might as well get number 4. So here's Annie Oakley number 4. So this is from 1948. And it's the last issue until 1955. So basically what happened was they did Annie Oakley from 1 through 4 in the Golden Age. And then when the code came out, they brought it back for a few more issues. But it was basically, yeah, it was a very short-lived run, just 4 issues. And then it kind of got brought back in the 50s. So this is a Earl James cover. It's just a really great good girl art cover. Tex, it's nice of you to want to make my breakfast for me, but don't you think you've got your mind on your work? You mind your work? You've got your mind on your work, and you're telling me. He's like, I think he's checking her out and trying to cook at the same time, and it's not working out too well. So yeah, just a classic good girl art cover. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, and we end with a really great book. Okay, so this is the last in this unboxing, and this is just a really great series. Has so many great covers in it. Some, like, for the most part, most of them are very inexpensive. This is one of the more expensive more of the expensive ones. This is Crime Does Not Pay, number 36 from 1944. This is a Charles Biro cover, and it's known as the Injury to Eye cover. It's one that Soti, the Seduction of the Innocent, should have had but didn't have in the in the Seduction of the Innocent, because it's got like this guy and he's bleeding from his eye. You can see that, and just a classic cover as a result. Yeah, just this was on my. So what happened with this book was it was on my want list, and I got a notification and I jumped on it. Once it once it came up, I instantly bought it. So yeah, I got a great deal on it. Actually, they priced it kind of low. But yeah, just a really great book. This is Lee Gleason Publications from 1944, and just yeah, great book. Charles Biro, and I'll show you the back too. So there's a few really great ones. Crime Does Not Pay. This is one of them. There's a few where there's a girl that's decapitated. There's a girl with her face getting pushed against a stove and her hair's on fire. There's some really great covers from this run. So yeah, Crime Does Not Pay, number 36. It's a great book. Okay, so that was this unboxing. The book that I really, really loved from this book, from this collection, from this part, I should say, is this After Hours. Like, that's why I put a lot of time explaining about it, because this is, for me, a bit more important than maybe for other people, because I really got into collecting Warren publications, and to get their first book in a encased version is a really big deal for me. So I'm really happy to have this one. So just a little bit extra there, I just wanted to say. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And also check out the other parts in the series, because I show some pretty amazing books. And if you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Simple. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye for now.